"You do not understand this industry, Anna. You should go back to your little editing job." That was James Grayson, vice president at Silverline Media, standing at the end of the conference room with a report in his hand and contempt in his voice. I am Anna Holmes, standing by the meeting table holding the same thick manuscript, knowing I pulled this proposal together overnight. 6 colleagues sat around the room and the window was half open, letting afternoon light cut across the desks. James leaned on the table, tapping his toe as if each tap was a provocation. My jaw tightened and my fingers went white, but I did not step back. "I made changes you have not even read." My voice was low and steady. "I do not need to read your presumptuous ideas," came his impatient reply. This had happened before since I joined Silverline. James liked to belittle me in front of everyone and present my work as his own. In client meetings, he would read my pages and praise his judgment as he took credit. I tried to explain many times, and each time I was dismissed as too sensitive. Today was different. I had prepared proof. The meeting room door opened and old security guard Davis came in with a small package. Inside were my old proposals and drafts that I had saved years ago. Those late-night handwritten notes had been slipped into the company files by James, but I had kept a copy. "Anna, you should leave," said James, raising his voice and pointing to the door. I stopped and met his eyes with a chill in my chest. This time I would not back down. 6 months earlier, I walked Silverline Media's narrow corridors each day, carrying thick folders and my shoulders slightly hunched. Every step felt like walking on glass ready to crack. James could appear without warning and sweep me with that tight gaze. "Anna, are you sure this proposal is not a waste of time?" he would ask in department meetings, and each question felt like a public reminder that I was an untrustworthy junior editor. Once I stayed up 2 nights to build a full promotion plan for a new author. When I handed it to James, he flipped 2 pages and smiled like a benefactor. "Not bad," he said, "though not spectacular." The team coughed, but no one spoke. I felt like the office joke. Back at my desk, I found a page of my core ideas on the floor by the printer, untouched. Those scraps were the only consolation I had. Marginalization followed me into daily life. I ate lunch alone in a storage room, unwrapped my sandwich, and listened to the office laugh and type. James mocked busy people and sometimes singled someone out, saying, "You are like Anna, you could do better, but you hold everyone back." Each barb felt like a needle in my heart. Complaining would help nothing, and striking back was not the time, so I stored strength quietly. I began to organize every plan and email record. Every communication, every feedback, and every revision I backed up. Late at night, I sat in an empty office with an old laptop and notebook and systematized scattered ideas into full files. I secretly recorded my own presentations, capturing every sentence and every data point. Those raw materials had been altered by James or dismissed by colleagues, but they would become key evidence in my plan. The worst was when James sent me on a research trip and handed my findings to someone else on his return. In a department meeting, he presented the results with confidence while I watched from the corner. His smile cut into my pride like a blade. I said nothing that day and recorded every detail: the client's question, his answer, and the order of the presentation. Everything would be a chess piece later. I learned patience and calm are worth more than a rash rebuttal. Each humiliation I logged and analyzed. Each slight I turned into resources. I contacted authors I had worked with and kept copies of internal files. I saved my past creative work. Slowly I understood the office ecology. Power sits with those who crush others, but that power has limits. My chance was in the corners they ignored. In the storage room, I found an unfinished plan from months before. It was the integrated promotion strategy one had designed for a new author that James had taken and presented to senior staff. Seeing it gave me a cold, steady certainty. I had the base for revenge and an opportunity to prove myself. Every late night, every ignored look, and every public criticism quietly shaped me. I grew sharp and learned to lay plans under a surface of compliance. Being oppressed taught me that revenge must be step by step and patient. Finally, one day, I walked into the office with my complete files in hand. James sat in his usual corner sipping coffee, confident as always. But this time my hands held not just papers but the chips to reclaim my destiny. Our gazes met, spanning 6 months of silence and gathering. I knew then the curtain was rising on revenge. I placed the files down and the air seemed to freeze. All the old insults and pressures turned into strategy and action. Every memory of being stepped on became an edge I could wield. I did not act immediately. Instead, I let Silverline expose its own flaws. The files, the emails, and the recordings were my weapons and my capital to build trust. First, I contacted former clients who had been neglected or disappointed. I showed them the original plans and the raw data to make clear that project failures were not accidents, but the result of James' tampering. Within 3 days, 2 core clients signed with us and a third confirmed a week later. I also recruited editors and designers long pressured at Silverline. They had been denied chances and now they were eager and talented. We formed a team with no fancy office, only simple desks and lights, but everyone worked with full focus. Our projects ran like a precise machine. Every client response was handled fast. Silverline's core clients quietly shifted to us, thinking stability had shifted hands. 6 months later, Dawnlight Publishing had influence in the industry. I began Step 2: strategic acquisitions. I quietly bought into Silverline's largest competitor and gained control. Within weeks, the rival team integrated into Dawnlight and Silverline shook from within. Then I set my sights on James and his headquarters. The day I walked into that old meeting room, James was in his familiar vice president seat, the carpet pattern under his feet unchanged. He looked up and froze. "Anna, how did this happen?" His voice faltered, and his hand trembled with the coffee cup. I placed the acquisition papers and Dawnlight's official documents on the table, and said calmly, "Mr. Grayson, from today on I am CEO. And you are no longer the decision-maker." The security guard stood at the door with steady eyes and the room tightened. "You cannot do this, this is impossible," he blurted, his voice full of anger and fear. I smiled coolly. "Pack your things, you have one choice, leave." His hands shook and his voice choked. For the first time, helplessness showed in his eyes. Power he once wielded lost all effect. In the days that followed, Silverline descended into chaos. James sat with empty authority, while our company controlled the clients and resources. Rumors spread and employees whispered about the junior editor they had mocked, who now controlled the industry. I did not celebrate out loud. Instead, I checked our operations and secured client transitions. True victory lies not in a moment but in calm control of the whole picture. At night, I sat in my office looking at city lights and remembered the old files in the storage room. Every page, every email was a reminder that calm and patience were the sharpest tools. I found Davis, the old guard, in the corridor and handed him the old file. He looked at me and smiled. "I knew you would not stay down." I tightened my grip on the file. "I just did not forget who I am." He nodded with understanding and respect. Past humiliations and oppression had become the groundwork that brought me here. Dawnlight's logo shone on the glass wall like a warning that strategy, patience, and intelligence can nullify malice. James trembled and feared and begged, but no one gave him a chance. My revenge was thorough, precise, calm, and unstoppable. I returned to my office, opened my computer, and continued planning for new authors and projects. Every humiliation from the last 6 months became a stone on the road to this victory. Calm strategy and patience, that is the truth of winning. I am Anna Holmes, and I have not only avenged myself, I have taken back control and turned shame into honor.